Hi there. We're going to talk about one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting account in accounting, and that is cash. Cash and cash equivalent under PAS number 1. Alam mo, may kasabihan tayo pag pera na raw ang pinag-usapan, lumalabas na raw yung tunay na kulay ng tao. No? So, hindi lang yung perang may tao, no? Pati yung tao, yung tao gustong magkapera. So, of course, lahat tayo, pag cash na yung pinag-usapan, iba na yung natin, no? Lumalabas yung tunay na ugali natin. So, yung mga hindi marunong magbilang, natututo magbilang. Pero ano ba talaga yung kahalagahan nitong cash? O ano ba talaga yung definition nitong cash dito sa accounting? Now, tayo mga accountant, no? Alam natin yung language of business. So pag sinabing cash, this practically encompasses most of the transaction sa business. So ano ba talaga yung definition niyan as far as accounting is concerned? So for a layman's point of view, when we hear the word cash, it means money. It is a standard of exchange na meron tayong nabibili rito, marami tayong nabibili rito. No, so it is supposed to be nakapeg siya against the gold, no? So especially in the olden times, no? So ito yung halaga ng gold. So it is just circulated. So this is the medium of exchange that we use in transacting the things we want to buy. Now, aside from that, money refers to the currency and coins which are circulated in legal tender. So, sa accounting, ano ba talaga yung mga kasama doon pag sinabing cash? Is it just yung bang money, which a lot of layman would think, no? Kasi tayo mga accountant, mas advanced tayo, mas alam natin kung ano yung mga inclusion, no? In not just in accounting, no, but practically, no? Since accounting is the language of business. So ito yung ginagawang kumbaga means to transact a particular business transaction. So dun sa mga journal entries natin, karaniwan ng transaction is involving cash. As contemplated in accounting, cash includes money and any negotiable instrument that is payable in money and acceptable by the bank for deposit and immediate credit. Accordingly, cash includes checks, bank drafts, and money orders because these are acceptable by the bank for deposit or immediate encashment. So for example, when cash are received in full settlement of an account receivable, cash is immediately debited. But post-dated checks received cannot be considered as cash yet because these are unacceptable by bank for deposit and immediate credit or outright encashment. Now let's talk about unrestricted cash. There is no specific standard dealing with cash. The only guidance is found in PAS 1, paragraph 66, which provides that an entity shall classify an asset as current when the asset is cash or a cash equivalent unless it is restricted to sell a liability for more than 12 months after the end of the accounting period. Accordingly, to be reported as cash, an item must be unrestricted. This means that the cash must be readily in use. to be able to be considered as cash and cash equivalents, no? Hindi pwede yung may paglalaanan ka na higit pa sa 12 buwan. Now, cash items included in cash. Letter A, cash on hand. So this includes undeposited cash collections and other cash items awaiting deposit, such as customers' checks, cashiers or managers' checks, travelers' checks, bank drafts, and money orders. The next is cash in bank. So this includes demand deposit or checking account. So ito yung mga nandun sa bangko, yung perang nakatago sa bangko na which are unrestricted as to withdrawal. And lastly, cash funds set aside for current purposes. No, ito yung mga tinatawag na petty cash fund, yung mga payroll funds and dividend fund. Let's talk about cash equivalents. PAS number 7, paragraph 6 defines cash equivalents as short-term and highly liquid investments that are readily convertible into cash and so near their maturity that they present insignificant risk of changes in value because of changes in interest rates. The standard further states that only highly liquid investments that are acquired 3 months before the maturity can qualify as cash equivalents. So examples of this are 3-month BSP Treasury Bill, 3-year BSP Treasury Bill purchased 3 months before the maturity, 3-month time deposit, and 3-month money market instrument or commercial paper. Please take note of this, no? Equity securities cannot qualify as cash equivalents because it has no maturity date. However, yung preference share may qualify as cash equivalent if it has a redemption date. Another thing is that yung BSP Treasury Bill should be purchased 3 months or less to qualify as cash equivalent. Now, pwede rin yung bang 1 year yung duration nung BSP na Treasury Bill. Pero pinurchase siya 3 months or less, that could qualify as cash equivalent. Pero hindi pwede yung pagka binili mo siya 1 year before its expiration, no, and then pagdating ng 3 months, no, and you consider that as cash equivalent, hindi pwede yon. So dapat kailangan 3 months or less dun sa pag-purchase mo yung Treasury Bill. Investment in cash. As far as cash management is concerned, yung control and management of cash, kailangan yung mga excess cash, no? Hindi rin ibig sabihin pag may excess cash ka, that is a good sign na maganda yung takbo ng company or financially the company is well off, no? Kasi hindi rin kailangan yung mga excess cash since yung cash in bank is practically natutulog lang dun sa bangko. You know, mas malaki pa yung rate of inflation kaysa dun sa interest. So, there are a number of ways para invest yung pera na yon. So, number 1 is yung sa time deposit, and the next one is yung money market instruments and treasury bills. So, this is also part of yung sa management of cash, no? Yung or dun sa na pinag-aaralan ito sa management accounting, more on dun sa mga cash budget, cash budgeting, so investments, and all these things. No? So we're going to talk about more on that in a while. Classification of investment of excess cash, investment in time deposits, money market instruments, and treasury bills should be classified as follows. If the term is 3 months or less, such instruments are classified as cash equivalents and therefore included in the caption cash and cash equivalent. So yung pinaka demarcation line is 3 months or less to be called as cash equivalents. If the term, letter B, if the term is more than 3 months but within 1 year, such investments are classified as short-term financial assets or temporary investment and presented separately in current assets. If the term is more than 1 year, such investments are classified as non-current or long-term investment. So, however, if such investments become due within 1 year from the end of the reporting period, they are reclassified as current or temporary investments. This is practically similar para rin dun sa mga ibang account sa asset account, no? Na pagka within 1 year, it is part of the current asset. And if it's 3 months or less, yung mga highly liquid asset like yung nabanggit natin kanina, like time deposit, T-bills, and all these things, no? Kasama siya as cash equivalents. Pero pagka, let's say, beyond 1 year, that is considered as non-current assets. Let's talk about measurement of cash. Alam nyo dito sa financial accounting or dito sa intermediate accounting, isa sa pinakamahalagang bagay dito is to know the valuation of an account. So regardless if it is an asset or part of a liability or an equity, ang pinakamahalaga doon as accountants is may present doon sa financial statement at its proper valuation. Now, as far as cash is concerned, it is measured using face value. Now, what is face value? Kumbaga, hindi siya naapektuhan dun sa external factors like economics, no? Okay, we know that sa economics, yung perang nilagay mo na 10,000, halimbawa, dun sa bangko, on day 1, no? Dun, for 10,000, for example, would not have the same intrinsic value after 1 year. So, normally ang rate of inflation is around 3%, no? Pero sa as far as accounting is concerned, sa financial statement, particularly dun sa balance sheet or statement of financial position, nag-a-appear pa rin siya kung ano yung amount na nilagay mo nung beginning of the year, assuming hindi naman siya nagalaw, no? So also at face value for 10,000. The next one is yung foreign currency exchange. Now, for example, kung may foreign currency transaction yung company, no? So, it is translated using the current rate, yung current exchange rate. So, kung ano yung palitan. Ayun, no? Current exchange rate. Now, the last one, if a bank or financial institution holding the funds of an entity, halimbawa, yung entity is in distress or, kumbaga, in the brink of bankruptcy, no? Or financial difficulty, cash should be written down to estimated realizable value if the amount recoverable is estimated to be lower than the face value. So, ito, typical to sa mga companies na yung kanilang pera na nando sa bangko na normal na parang siyang under guardianship dun sa bangko na yun. Now, yung pera doon is measured at yung mga net realizable value if it's or recoverable value if it's lower than the face value of the cash. Now, let's talk about financial statement presentation. Paano ba natin pinipresent yung cash doon sa financial statement or doon sa balance sheet? Now, under the present yung presentation sa PFRS, that yung cash and cash equivalent should be the first line item na makikita natin doon sa under cash, no? Okay, so siguro unlike sa mga European countries wherein yung kanilang mga fixed asset nandun sa taas, tayo naman yung mga highly liquid assets, no? Where of course cash is number 1 dun sa first. Cash and cash equivalent is the first line item under PFRS, no? Now, yung cash and cash equivalents, no? I mean yung cash should include yung cash on hand, cash in bank, and yung petty cash fund, and yung the next one is yung cash equivalent. Now, yung cash equivalent, no, it will only be considered as cash equivalent if it is 3 months or less, and it is not restricted as far as yung kumbaga yung use niya sa current period. So hindi siya restricted, in other words. However, itong cash equivalents na to should be disclosed. Cash and cash equivalents alike should also be disclosed dun sa notes to financial statements. So paano naman pagka yung foreign exchange transaction? Now, as far as foreign exchange transaction is concerned, yung foreign exchange should be translated in Philippine peso using the current exchange rate. So kung merong mga transaction involving foreign currency, it should be translated under the Philippine peso using the current exchange rate. Now, paano naman if there's a kumbaga merong yung foreign yung bang pera nila doon sa other countries, no? Yeah, let's say for example, deposit in foreign countries which are not subject to any foreign exchange currency or not subject to any restriction should be included doon sa cash. So kung wala naman restriction, that could be included also in cash. Now, if there is a restriction, so let's say deposit in foreign bank which are subject to foreign exchange restriction should be classified as non-current asset. So, kailangan i-indicate yun doon sa financial statement. No? So, particularly, nandun naka-disclose yun doon sa under the notes to financial statements. Now, cash fund for a certain purpose. If the cash fund is set aside for use in current operations or for the payment of current obligation, it is a current asset. The cash fund is included as part of cash and cash equivalents. Example of this are petty cash fund, payroll fund, travel fund, interest fund, dividend fund, and tax fund. On the other hand, if the cash fund is set aside for non-current purpose or payment of non-current obligation, it is shown as a long-term investment. Example of this fund are sinking fund, preference share redemption fund, contingent fund, insurance fund, and fund for acquisition or construction of property, plant, and equipment. So ito yung mga cash na may pinaglalaanan na mahigit pa sa isang taon. So ito yung nagbabayad, no, yung mga non-current obligations. So this is considered as a long-term investment. Let's talk about bank overdraft. Now, ano ba itong bank overdraft? Now, itong bank overdraft na to, pagka mas malaki yung withdrawal, no, yung bang nag-negative balance. Now, there's no such thing as ilalagay mo dun sa sa financial position as negative balance, no, naka-parenthesis yung cash, no? Because yung ganung negative, actually, there's no such thing as that, no? So that should be under the current liabilities. When the cash in bank account has a credit balance, it is said to be an overdraft. The credit balance in the cash in bank account results from the issuance of checks in excess of the deposits. A bank overdraft is classified as a current liability and should not be offset against other bank accounts with debit balances. For example, an entity maintains two bank accounts. So magkaibang bangko ito. The first one, cash in bank, dun sa first bank, no? This is the name of the bank, first bank, which is overdrawn by 10,000. The next one is cash in bank, second bank, with a debit balance of 100,000 pesos. So the net cash balance is 90,000 pesos. The proper statement classification of the two accounts is as follows. So under current asset, yung cash in bank, doon lang sa second bank, which is 100,000. So meron kasi siyang debit balance doon sa company, which means positive, na 100,000. Now, the other one has a bank overdraft, yung first bank, by 10,000, which is under current liability. So it is also to be stated that generally overdrafts are not permitted in the Philippines. So there is an exemption to the rule on overdraft. When an entity maintains two or more accounts in one bank and one account results in an overdraft, such overdraft can be offset against the other bank account with a debit balance in order to show cash net of bank overdraft or bank overdraft net of other bank accounts. So under IFRS, bank overdraft can be offset against other bank account when payable on demand and often fluctuates from positive to negative as an integral part of cash management. Now let's talk about compensating balance. The compensating balance generally takes the form of minimum checking or demand deposit. account balance that must be maintained in connection with borrowing management arrangement with a bank. So for example, an entity borrows 5 million from a bank and agrees to maintain a 10% or 500,000 pesos minimum compensating balance in a demand deposit account. So in effect, this arrangement results in the reduction of the amount borrowed because of the compensating balance provides a source of fund to the bank as partial compensation for the loan. Let's talk about undelivered or unreleased check. Now, itong undelivered or unreleased check, ito yung dapat mo nang bayaran yung yung pay, yung pinagkakautangan mo pero hindi mo pa binayaran. So nag-draw ka lang ng check, so you signed it, tapos nilagay mo dun sa drawer mo, hindi mo muna binayaran pero nilagay mo dun sa dun sa accounting records mo na binayaran mo na by debiting accounts payable and crediting cash. So, in essence, nabawasan na yung utang mo. Now, hindi naman talaga, wala ka naman talaga binayaran kasi undelivered nga wala nga natanggap na bayad So, the proper thing to do, instead of excluding that to cash, ibabalik mo ulit siya sa cash by debiting cash, by making an adjustment, debit to cash, kung magkano man yung amount ng undelivered check, and credit to accounts payable or any appropriate account. Well, we'll talk about post-dated checks. Now, similar to unreleased or undelivered checks, itong post-dated checks is, nag-withdraw ka na dito, you have drawn it already, and you signed the check, and you have already recorded it doon sa reporting date, and you have released it. However, yung payment is, kumbaga post-dated. Halimbawa, let's say, December 31. So, nirelease mo na yung check. Pero yung pwede lang niya ma-encash yun after 30 days. Let's say, January 30 pa. So, that's about 30 days. So, pero nilagay mo na dun sa record mo by a debit to accounts payable or any other appropriate account and a credit to cash. So, in-exclude mo na siya sa cash balance. Kasi nga, nirelease mo na yung check. Pero yung nakalagay na date doon is January 30 pa. Pero yung mo dun sa record mo dun sa December 30, binawasan mo na yung cash balance mo. So, there should be an adjustment there. So, ibabalik mo ulit yung cash dun by a debit to cash and the credit to accounts payable or any other appropriate account. Ano naman yung treatment dun sa stale check? Alam natin itong stale check na to. Ito yung cheque na hindi ini-encash. Although nabayaran mo na yung pay, pero hindi niya in-encash for a certain number of let's say weeks or months. Now, as a rule, 6 months nagiging stale na. But that is more of a company policy than kumbaga an absolute rule. So, wala talagang rule with regards to that. Meron nga 3 months lang, stale check na. Now, if in the event na maging stale check yun, so, i-revert mo ulit siya into cash kasi hindi na nga siya, hindi siya na i-encash dun sa allotted time period or whatever that proper time period might be. So, by debiting to cash, if it's not material, so debit to cash, and credit to miscellaneous income. Pagka naman let's say yung nirelease mo na cheque na naging stale, will continue. Let's say tapos naging stale siya, let's say the bank does not accept it anymore. So, revert it to cash by a debit to cash and credit to accounts payable or any other appropriate account. If you have any questions or any comments or any topic that you would like us to talk about, to discuss, especially in accounting and of course in management accounting as well, and of strategic management or cost accounting. So just write your comment there. Of course, subscribe and share this video. Again, God bless and stay safe.